In ancient times, there was such a Sufi, Amir Karim, a desert boy we are in Egypt. He has never seen neither winter nor snow. Amir Karim's soul comes the very first one. You could shout like this, Amir! And at first he didn't respond, didn't react. And he could repeat like this, orange, orange, orange. His psychic structures were broken. Egypt doctors are Egypt doctors, but maybe Russian doctors would be more capable. They are so genius. Who are genius? PSD? Such a terrifying diagnosis, emotionally unstable personality disorder of a boy with elements of autistic behavior. ADC test, we were paralyzed. 78. She prescribed a whole sheet of nootropics. After the second shot, my child began to talk. Nobody is able to turn on the consciousness. The kids turn into vegetables. Thanks God we had the wisdom not to deal with neuroleptics. Hello, Nelly. Good afternoon. Tell us about your son, Amir Karim. Now, my son is 5 years old. He has turned 5 recently. Now he is a quite developed, cheerful boy. He is making me and his dad happy. We were not so happy all the time. He was born healthy. He had a good weight, 3 and 600, such a strong man. We didn't see anything coming. We accepted our son to the family. We began to notice particular strange signs in our son, and we accepted them with a smile. We used to say, he is our tardy, he is late, such a lazy boy. As we were reading the books and checked, and there was written, a baby should start turning at some age. He didn't turn. Should start sitting at some age. Our baby didn't start sitting at that time. He started walking late, honestly speaking. He made us worry. But we continue to say, we have a lazy boy. He started walking at 1 and 4. And we began to notice, when we called him Amir Amir, he didn't react. And when he turned 2 and 4, we went to, and we don't live in Russia, we live in Egypt. We were absolutely calm. We went to Russia, to Rostov-na-Donu city. I'm originally from there. My background is there. And I decided, just in case, not that I was nervous about this. I said to my husband, maybe we should go and check some doctors here. Egypt doctors are Egypt doctors, but maybe Russian doctors would be more capable. He is late, but he will talk, but for our own peace of mind, let's go. And we went. Neurologist, she, as usually doctors do, didn't even look at us. Hello, and she began writing. And we began, as we were sure that everything was fine. Now this lady will tell us that everything is fine, he's just a little late, such a character, and we are going to leave in 5 minutes with relief. And she says, a psycho-speech delay, PSD. She prescribed a whole sheet of nootropics, something for vessels, cortexine, Tugeron, I don't already remember, but these are popular medicine among Russian neurologists and psychiatrists. I came home and began to Google this cortexine, and I read at first. I was upset, but then I read the feedbacks, and they said, after the second shot my child began to talk, and I had a relief. That now we would also take a course, and she had prescribed us not 2 or 3 shots, but 10. Now we would do this, and there wouldn't be any problem, any of this shameful PSD. We started to give him these shots, and after we had given him 2 or 3, my child completely changed. I mean, it was like he had an opposite reaction. After this, we began to read about discotheque scene, I guess it is used only in our Slavonic countries, on the post-Soviet areas. And it is forbidden all over the world, like these experimental nootropics. The child became very excited. He stopped sleeping during the daytime. I can't say that he became aggressive. No, simply too overactive. He had a problem with falling asleep. His diaper was too wet at night and he used to wake up in a puddle. But we were steadfastly following this protocol, which he had prescribed us. Thank God we had the wisdom not to deal with neuroleptics, because after, you know, it's like a Russian soul. At first you smash it with a hammer and then read an instruction. So it was our case. At first we gave him a shot and then began to learn about it. And it turned out that nootropics, unless I can already say this, that they are less carry power than neuroleptics. And neuroleptics already cause hormonal disbalance, obesity, and children already turn into vegetables. And after this, a lot of parents try to put it in reverse. There is a slang phrase, backpedal, to bring everything back. It's very difficult to get a child of these drugs after this. Thank God we had the wisdom not to reach this. We have never met a similar story in our practice. All the karmic stories differ from each other. Even the course of a disease itself always develops in a different way. Different education of parents and different subsequences of some external factors, interference into a child's recovery. Every case is unique. So thus our hardship with this PSD started. I wasn't satisfied with this. I said, there is such a terrifying diagnosis, let's find somebody else. So we will have some more opinions. So we went to some other center. There was an absolutely amazing woman as to communication, psychoneurologist. She charmed us. We were like inside a cloud. Everything is fine, they're a genius. Who are genius? PSD? No, but you should understand. And let me remember, she wrote a following diagnosis. Emotionally unstable personality disorder of a boy with elements of autistic behavior. I still remember, so like this. I asked what to do, and she wrote 4 A4 pages, 4 with tiny letters. What should we do? Awesome, so we would start doing this and there wouldn't be any PSD or emotionally unstable disorders. We went back to Egypt, to our home. He was wearing a diaper and he was little older than 2.5. Those pills didn't help, as we had started to take them already in Russia, and we saw that our child had become even wilder. And my husband and I decided not to deal with medicine, as by that time we had already studied tons of literature. There is no such a magic pill yet which will release a child from autism and PSD, and we realized that this medical way was a kind of dead end. When we started to show the society how children get out of autism, that we really help children, that they really develop, that we really do miracles, we began to receive blames that we were appropriating the results of medicine for ourselves. Wait, my friends, at the present moment medicine doesn't have any algorithm, any drug, any method which will really release a child from autism and turn on his consciousness. Nobody can turn on the consciousness, neither psychologists, no psychotherapists, no doctors. There are no such specialists in our society. When I was searching the internet, I found such a test, ATC. ATC is not about making a diagnosis, it's more for parents, so they could observe the dynamics, whether a child is regressing or progressing. And it says that if the rate is over 60, then it is already severe autism, and it seemed to us that we had a normal kid. But when we passed this ATEC test together with my husband, we were paralyzed, 78. So it turned out to be a severe, very severe autism. And we used to think that he had just elements of autistic behavior, so he had some little problems. And we were shocked. How was it possible that our child had a severe autism? ATEC test is a really good system which helps parents to comprehend, to realize the situation in which they find themselves. So we came back home and we began to take him every day to the sea, to the sea, to the sea. That is impressions, swimming, laughing, joking, splashing, showing him flowers, riding in the car. So we were trying to shake him in order to awaken. I used to find and try different kinds of therapy, studied them and tried on Amir. I don't know whether I can name them here or not, but I'm sure everybody knows them. This is Professor Drapkin therapy. There was such a psychiatrist in Leningrad and in St. Petersburg. He wrote a book, Mother's Love. I started to apply it already in Russia. The brief essence of it is that you need to tell your child how much you love him when he is falling asleep for 15 minutes. This influences his subcortex. I started practicing this Mother's Love, holding therapy. This is a hugging therapy. Then in a while, Natalia said that this therapy was not bad, so we had found it intuitively. There was an osteopath, a massage therapist, all this together, and of course the sea, our Red Sea, corals and fish made a miracle. We came home at the end of July, and somewhere at the middle of September, we passed ATEC once again, and it was already 56. And we continued the sea, we continued everything I've just mentioned, and major impact was done not by my mother's love and care, but by the dad's. The dad was like Amir's second mother, and he devoted all his free and not free time to his son. They were riding for hours. He took him to the swimming pool, to the sea, to dolphins. He read him books, and he said, it doesn't matter whether he can hear me or not, I will cure him with my love. But our child still remained autistic. And the ATEC results after our efforts were something about 38. Thus, we progressed even more. I remind you that it used to be 78 and became twice less in 18 months. But we used to have some toilet problems. He wet his pants and did some more serious stuff, and he didn't understand. He did this and then got upset. He felt uncomfortable. His consciousness, it was already kind of more obvious than at his 2.5. But anyway, the child had depleted look. You know how it used to be. Like he was turned on and off, on and off. He used to have a state like this. And in 2019, the last year, due to one girl we know, we met her in the Israel chat, Olga from Austria. Olechka, hi, thank you. And exactly, Olga was the one who shared with me the information about Natalia Zaitseva and infodiving. And when Olga gave me this information, I couldn't sleep for several nights. I was watching the videos on her channel one after another. There is a wonderful channel on YouTube, thank you for it. I didn't have any doubts at all. I realized clearly that there will be saving. This is the end. We will get help. And I wrote to Natalia, and I was blessing that she answered so quickly. We set the day, paid a particular sum of money, which Amir's soul announced. It was quite realistic money, comparing to money which we had already spent, paid. It was an adequate, sensible, realistic price. And the working through was done. We received the video, some comic stories, and my husband and I did everything we were told. The instructions which we received, we did. And Natalia recommended us to watch Amir the next day. The next day, my son, suddenly, and we had never noticed any imagination in him. He put the socks over his hands like this and did like this. And I asked him, my boy, what are you doing? And I asked it for myself. Of course, I knew that he wouldn't answer. And he said, these are gloves. The child had never seen winter, maybe just in a cartoon. I have told you where we live. He is a desert boy. We are in Egypt. He has never seen neither winter nor snow, much less he had never seen gloves. And here he puts on the socks on hands and imitate gloves. Of course I froze. That was the sign from the soul. And after this, I don't already remember everything. There were a lot of signs and small hints. Amir Karim has a very interesting soul. When we were working with his karmic story, at first we were even surprised whether it was true or not. In ancient times, there was such a Sufi, Amir Karim. He was quite a well-known Sufi. He remained it in history, and people talk about him as about a mystic person. And here we found a soul of this person in the autistic child. At first we didn't believe this. But then there were a lot of moments when we clearly realized that this was really a very old and wise soul. And then it explained to us later why it was necessary to be an autistic child, why it needed to meet with us. This is really such a mysterious component that it is a ready-made movie scenario with a story about what kind of mysticism can exist. We did the working through on the 5th of May 2019, last year. Now it's April and we are going to celebrate an anniversary soon. So what we were able to reach during this year? First of all, ATC test shows us 23-25. Below 30, those girls who know will understand, below 30 means that a child is not autistic. Above 30 means mild autism. We have 23-25, above 15 ATC points, it's already a normal child. That is, now ATC shows that our child is not autistic anymore with the elements of PSD, but I realize now that we are going to overcome PSD as well. This is the first thing. The second thing for me is such a joy. I guess mothers and fathers will understand me. This is toilet. Not just automatic toilet like a robot, but this is a conscious use of toilet by the child. Yes, he didn't wet his pants for a long while, but his dad and I we had a finger on the pulse. We were watching him, and if we noticed some movement, some disturbance, we took him to the toilet immediately, and he was clean, fine. But we realized that he still had problems with toilet. It was only because of our help, with our help. And now he does it when he needs, without being told. And now he also washes himself. He has attempts to wash himself by his own. These are the main global things. Of course, he has different eyes now. Tell us more about his speech. You've said about the gloves, and what was before? He could count. Not just count, he knew the numbers up to 100. Numbers. He knew alphabet, Russian, English and Arabic. He knew colors. When we asked him, he showed them with his finger. He knew animals, fruits, but he did this automatically. He learned this, like a robot, like a program, which we had installed on his flash drive. And here, with this glove, it was his imagination and an answer with a foxy face. And after the working through, they were more than one, he began to respond. Amir, what is that you've drawn? Cornet, and this trombone, and this saxophone. Another interesting thing, we are constantly sharing the psyche structures, and when we find some new techniques, Amir Karim's soul comes the very first one and asks us to experiment on our new inventions on him. And now, for example, I can tell him, my son, I love you. And he looks at me, and sometimes he still needs some impulse. I say, Ma, and he says, Mother, I love you. I say the first syllable, and he says, Mother, right away. Today, for example, he came up and said, meat. He is a meat eater, he asks meat. I give him soup, he says no meat. Thus, now he asks, and before he was stone-faced, with his body all tense, like Slisik. His arms were so tense that I wasn't even able to unclench them. He used to sit like this. I said to him, son, dinner, drink, eat, apples, sweets, what? An autistic child doesn't see himself in the mirror. He is not aware of himself, because his psychic structures are broken, those which are responsible for his reflection in the real world, in the society. Now he already responds, and this makes our understanding of each other, our communication easier. When he asks for a cartoon, he can come up and say, turn on Jack Hedgehog, this is incredible. I used to switch the channels one by one. He was crying, nervous, because he wanted something else, and I couldn't understand what he wanted. Now he asks. He watches cartoons consciously. His favorite ones are Winnie the Pooh, Jack, different, a lot of them. I wrote to Natalia and even sent her a video when he recently, I guess in February, watched the whole first episode of Buratino movie. And this movie is already for all the kids, I think even for school age. And he watched it, laughed, was angry with that Carabas, so it was obvious that he understood it. Now he can ask for food, soup, meat, drink, tea, momile. He says momile instead of chamomile. Walk, swim, sleep. Don't want. I'd feel. Now, when we communicate, our dialogue consists of 2-3 words, but it is possible to understand him. His face is emotional. Another thing I want to mention is that he watches a lot of cartoons, he learns from them, uploads information, he draws such smiling faces, and he drew emotions very precisely. I'm not able to convey a sense of emotions like this. I say, tell me about them. He says, this one is frustrated, this one is angry, this one is happy, this one is sad. Can you imagine? What kind of an artist is this? He is able to define the emotions clearly. He draws cars, lift trucks, knows all the planets, he can tell how many moons or rings they have, which one is made of dust or gas. He can tell all this when he is in mood. I'm very grateful. Of course, I'm very grateful to all of you. I used just to read about all this in the books. I have realized since I was young that the world is not exactly what we think it is, as we see it. Please tell us, did your husband watch the Working Through together with you? How did he take it? Yes, of course. And honestly speaking, we have been through a lot of things, and we've been there together. Somewhere at the beginning, when I just wrote to Natalia, and before Natalia, I have just mentioned the most bright examples. I don't know how many dozens of specialists, people, shaman, sorcerers, they call themselves all names under the sun. And of course, after 1.5 years of searching, we were a little bit exhausted. I was a little bit more sure. I believed in success. Karim was more skeptical. He said, "Okay, what else have you found?" And he is very patient and kind person. He will never show me the sign. Even if he thinks this, he will say anyway, "Okay, let's do it." Of course, sometimes it's difficult for him to comprehend how it is possible. Somewhere 1,000 miles away, they have never seen or touched him, never talked to him. How can it be? Of course, such questions, thoughts, even if they come to his head, he will keep quiet. And I see that he is happy, gratified by success of Amir. What were the symptoms? He described the progress and how it used to be before. First of all, he didn't answer, didn't react. We could shout like this, "Amir!" And he could ignore this and didn't turn. He could wake up. He used to sleep in a wooden crib. He stood like this, turned away his head, and started some echolalia. Yellow, orange. He could repeat colors. Violet, sun, sun, sun. And he could orange, 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 a sort of cycles. It was very painful to observe all this. Another thing, I don't know why and what it was about. I think we didn't ask Natalia this question, but all the artists, the majority of them, are strictly against cutting hair. To cut his hair, it was... And after the Working Through, he visited salon together with his dad, and now I cut his hair with a trimmer most of the time, cutting the nails, cleaning the ears, cutting the hair. All this was like the end of the world, very difficult to do this. After the Working Through, it's all fine. He has his haircut. I've sent the video to Natalia where he sits quietly in the salon. Our child, his consciousness has turned on. The most global is that there is contact, there are emotions, exchange. I can see that my child is happy, my child is sad. He has begun to take offense because I wasn't clear before whether he was offended or not, what was in his head, impossible to guess. And now a vivid face, rowdy-dowdy boy. He brings a chair, climbs on it, takes everything out of the cupboard. He gets into the documents, he gets into my rings, he gets into the dishes. He is inquiring, mixing something, he mixes dough. He can say, "Give me eggs, give me flour, give me salt," and he sits mixing everything. "Come here, son, show yourself. Come greet everybody, say hello, good afternoon, hello. Say it loud, hello." He is shy. This is our boy. You can see this by his face, that he is a vivid, happy child. To answer your question, it's better to show one time instead of describing for 100 times. Hello! Hello! Do you love me? Say ma. Say ma. Ma. I love you. And I love you too. And when you were ordering a consultation, did you see someone else's results? How did you believe that it was working in 1,000 miles? First of all, because of my intuition. I didn't hesitate. I watched and realized that it was the end, the help was here. And yes, there were already some girls who included me into the chat, where we continue to communicate right now. And the girls were writing there about their big and small progress, and it was really impressive. And that is why I'm telling our story right now, because I want people to hear me, to see my son. I know this desperation, how difficult it is to fight all this all alone. So people should hear and see this. Yes, it's important. Important. Believe it or not, you should just try and do it. And whom should you trust? A psychiatrist, psychiatric hospital. And what about that we don't see a child 1,000 miles away and it's not even clear what we do? Let's say now we are also communicating through the internet, but we don't see the internet where it is. But we see each other, mobile communication. There are so many things right now which we don't understand. Nobody has also cancelled quantum physics. It's 21st century after all, and I can see that the future is with you. Exactly, everything is just beginning. It is necessary to try. Long time ago, Giordano Bruno was burnt on fire, so what? The main difficulty of comprehension of our work in the society appears because one simple reason: we don't work in person, we work in the remote mode. We work without even warning children and their parents when we are going to work. Why so? Because in this case a person is relaxed, he doesn't defend himself and he doesn't know when exactly is going to be our influence and when the working through is going to be done. And when he is relaxed, we really have the access to almost any information in his subconsciousness. We observe where the disbalance is, what and how we should to change. We observe which karmic stories he needs to work through, how he needs to change himself. Thus, our help can be most qualitative. And here the science hasn't its brain freeze. What special do we do that in the remote mode, without talking to a person, without touching a person, without popping with hands, we provide a person with quite an in-depth help. In fact, we even have a theory and a grounding of what we do. The only thing left is that people finally hear us, we exist, and we have the results. And this is the most important. And the fact that they are not comprehended by people yet, I guess it's the matter of time. If we started to tell about TV sets and gadgets in the 18th or 19th century, then people wouldn't understand us. But this is the 21st century, and I think that just in a little while medicine will start using right the same methods and psychotechniques which we are using. These techniques are really structured in the algorithms. It is really possible to work following these techniques and methods, and it is really possible to cope such disease as autism. What else to say? There is a free will. If you want to struggle with diapers and potty chairs, you are welcome, basically. This is the choice of families, to believe it or not. We believed, and here is our boy. He wants to see it. You can choose not to believe it. But what about him? All right, I can be on your side. We could make a deal. But you couldn't make a deal with this guy, what? You came here to make faces, didn't you? Does he play with kids? In his own way, yes. He already reaches for kids. He is not afraid of them. He reaches for them. He wants to communicate with them very much. The kids just think he's a big boy. And as Natalia said, his development and upload of all the kids starting from 1 year is about to start now. That is, everything he has missed, he will catch up. And now during the day he can behave as a toddler and according to his age. And now the kids perceive him as a big boy, and he's like a toddler. And of course he provokes such a reaction, but he doesn't care. He endeavors and he is not afraid. Okay, say goodbye now. Say goodbye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. So it's not a ukulele. In this case, I tell him to say goodbye and he says bye-bye. So it also, and you know, you get used to good things very quickly. Before I used to search through some literature to read about autism. I don't do this anymore. I already see that a child, don't touch it, there is a delay, that's all, he won't let us. There is a delay, but how much time he was asleep. And now, of course, he needs to overtake to catch up everything, but I'm sure that he's going to catch everything and even leave behind. He's a smart child. All right, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you. Say hello to all your team. Thank you a lot. Goodbye.